It's a tragic thing today that in Australia, 50% of Australians have, are, or will suffer from some form of mental illness. And 1,700 cases of Alzheimer's is being diagnosed every day in Australia. These figures indicate that many people don't understand their brain, and they don't realise that we have more control over what we do and even what we say than we think we do. So in this short little time I have with you this morning, I'd like to just open the door a little bit and show you the parts of our brain where we make our decision and what influences them.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're uncovering the secrets to preserving one of your most valuable assets, your brain. Dementia is often seen as an inevitable part of aging, but what if I told you it doesn't have to be? Together, we'll explore natural remedies and lifestyle choices that have the power to transform your brain health. Drawing from years of research and wisdom, I'll share simple yet profound methods to keep your mind sharp, your memory strong, and your emotions balanced. But there's more. Depression, often overlooked, plays a critical role in brain health, quietly paving the way for cognitive decline if left unaddressed. In this lecture, we'll connect the dots between emotional well-being and dementia, uncovering how small, deliberate choices can protect and even rejuvenate your brain. So stay with me as we journey through the holistic strategies that nurture both mind and body. By the end, you'll not only understand how to support your brain naturally, but feel empowered to take action today for a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Let's get started.
The skull. And with the skeletal system, it's an internal structure causing us to stand upright. But when it comes to the head, the skeletal system now becomes an external structure. It becomes an external structure because it is now protecting the most delicate and yet the most important organ of the body. But when you have a look at the head, you will see 7 avenues of access into the brain. There are 2 ears, there are 2 eyes, there are 2 nostrils, and there is a mouth. Everything we hear or have ever heard, everything we see or have ever seen, everything we smell, and everything that goes into our mouth, whether it be food or drink, has an effect on the brain. Our decisions determine our destiny. So how important that we know something about the decision-making part of our brain. This is an area that many people are ignorant. The little book, The Ministry of Healing, which I see is up the back in the foyer, it says in there on page 127 that the only hope of better things is the education of the people in right principles. So we're going to begin by looking at the brain. Now the brain, from side on, it looks a little bit like this. And there is what's called the limbic system. And the limbic system basically takes up about that part of the brain. And this limbic system is often called the emotional brain. And I think we all know about emotions. And I think we all know that emotions aren't a very good guide because they go up and down like the wind. But there's another part of our brain that God designed to actually control that limbic system, that emotional part of the brain. So to do this, we're going to have a look at the brain from top down. From top down, you will have a look at the brain like this, and in the front part of the brain, and we're going to call this the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain, and I think the way you're looking it is. So in the right part of the brain, you could call that the I want section. That's down there. Sorry, not the I want, the I won't. Now this is a very important part of the brain. Where it's very important is, no, I won't have that cigarette. No, I won't have that cup of coffee. No, I won't have that big steak. I'll have a bowl of lentils instead. And on the left part of the brain is the I will. And the I will part of the brain is also very important because I will get out of bed and exercise this morning. I will go to bed early. I will make decisions that are helpful for my body. So you've got the I won't, and you've got the I will. And we need a little bit of balance in there, and that's where we come to, right in the centre is the I want part of the brain.
When I reflect on how intricately designed our bodies are, I'm always reminded of the brain's extraordinary complexity. It's our most delicate and vital organ, yet so often neglected in favour of external health. But true cognitive well-being requires daily, intentional care. One area often overlooked is the role of depression, a silent, insidious contributor to cognitive decline. Chronic depression, with its stress-induced biochemical imbalances, weakens the very fabric of our neural connections. Over time, it diminishes memory, impairs decision-making, and if left unchecked, lays the groundwork for dementia. This is why adopting habits that nurture both the mind and body is so critical. Small, consistent practices like prioritizing restful sleep, nourishing your body with brain-boosting nutrients, and staying physically active are transformative. Social connections, mindfulness, and deep breathing exercises are equally essential, helping to fortify the brain's resilience and protect against emotional and cognitive challenges.
Depression a way out. Every chapter starts with someone else's story, showing how they conquered depression, using some of the simple principles I'm showing you now and some of the simple principles I've been showing you all week. Dehydration affects depression. Late nights depression affect depression. So you can see what we're doing this morning. We're pulling those 8 physical laws we looked at this week, and we're pulling the 8 mental laws together. We should always have our detective hat on. You know, recently I consulted a private detective, and I said to him, "Oh, you're a private detective, so am I." I love the detective work of discovering why someone has a certain condition. It's Newton's third law of motion. To every action, there is an equal and an opposite reaction. Proverbs 26 verse 2 states that the curse causeless shall not come. You know what that means? No problem happens without a cause. There is always a reason. In fact, to say someone just has something is to defy basic science. So we should always be looking at the cause of a problem. And sometimes the problem for depression could be too much coffee, dehydration. So that's the best place to start. When someone comes to me wanting help with depression, do you know that's what I do? I said, start drinking more water. Start easing off your coffee. You could stop your coffee straight away, but you might suffer. A clear indication that it's not doing you any good. I say start going to bed early. Start limiting your technology time. Start seriously assessing what you're watching and the effect it's having on your brain. Start exercising. But I don't feel like exercising. Yes, that's your limbic emotional brain. But what do you want? I want to feel good. I want to conquer my depression, so I will go and exercise. Can you see how that all threads into each other? The second law is the law of choice. And the law of choice, as you can see, is determined in that I want, the frontal lobe part of the brain, your guardian, where your goals are. This is what you feel like doing, but this is what you want, so that influences your decisions. And when you're well slept, well hydrated, well sunned, well exercised, well fed, that I want part of the brain is a lot stronger. But we've got something else coming here, and that's habit. You've heard of habit? Habit can be our best friends or our worst enemies.
Throughout my years of practice, I've witnessed how powerfully interconnected mental and physical health truly are. Depression is not merely an emotional state. It disrupts the entire body, accelerating cognitive decline. The stress it creates alters hormone levels, neurotransmitter function, and brain activity, weakening neural pathways over time. But here's the beauty. Nature offers us simple, accessible remedies to counteract these effects. Something as basic as staying well hydrated ensures proper brain function. Regular exercise not only elevates mood, but also stimulates the production of growth factors that repair and sustain brain cells. Then there's the role of nutrition. A diet rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and essential vitamins provides the brain with the fuel it needs to stay strong. Reducing late nights, limiting screen time, and ensuring restorative sleep further amplify these efforts, creating an environment where the brain can regenerate and thrive.
Do you know, whatever you're going through, the Lord has an answer. And often we miss out on the answer because we went to bed too late and we don't hear that morning voice. We have a choice. Forgiveness is a choice. Let me tell you the story of a man who came to us. His name was Doug. I said, "Did you have a healthy, happy childhood?" He said, "No, I didn't. My father yelled at me all my life." He was 40. He had prostate cancer. I said to him, "Oh," sometimes that's all you can say, "Oh." I kept moving on because I could see it really irritated him. He heard all the lectures. He heard about the power of forgiveness. He heard about the fact that forgiveness is the only prescription in the entire universe that has the power to break the chemical bonds of hostility, anger, and hate. Forgiveness cuts the chains that bind you to painful past. Forgiveness gives you wings. He heard that in the lecture. I talked to him later after the lecture. I said, "Doug, you've heard about the power of forgiveness. Have you forgiven?" "You don't understand. He yelled at me all my life." I said, "I can understand that must have been very, very hard, Doug. But you've got quite a serious illness now, and I believe that for you to heal, you need to forgive your father." "You don't understand." His voice was rising. With fear and trepidation, I pushed it a little bit further. I said, "Doug, it'll only take a minute." "You don't understand." So I stopped. I backed off. Ooh, it was getting a little bit volatile in there. I changed the subject. 2 minutes later, Doug said to me, "I've done it." "Congratulations, Doug." Now, his limbic system, his emotional brain said, "Don't do this." Can you see that? And all his life, he'd been harbouring this. "My father yelled at me, my father yelled at me, he yelled at me, he yelled at me, he yelled at me." Can you see what's happening in his brain? What was happening in his brain was he was developing a very strong habit pathway of anger towards his father. In fact, the first week, I heard him telling other people, other guests, "My father yelled at me all my life." Can you see it's getting bigger and bigger? And when in the lecture, he heard to forgive. You see, it's not a limbic emotional brain decision, or you'll never do it. It's an I want decision. What do I want? I want to be free. Notice what he said, "I've done it." No emotion there at all. How could there be? How could there be? Don't wait for your emotions. They'll hold you back. You see, the third law of the brain states that your words affect your feeling. So don't wait till you feel like it, or you possibly will never do it. And who would want to hold on to that pain? That's why it's so important to know about your limbic system, to know about your emotional feeling system, and understand that your guardian, your all want, that's where you make your decisions. It's all right to express. We've got emotional limbic brains.
Equally important are habits that uplift our emotional well-being. Mindfulness practices, journaling, and meaningful connections with loved ones are all powerful tools. By nurturing emotional balance, we strengthen the mind and ward off the long-term impacts of depression and dementia. You've often heard me say, our habits are the architects of our future. This couldn't be truer for brain health. The brain's limbic system, responsible for regulating emotions, is profoundly affected by unresolved stress and pain. Chronic stress weakens the brain's defences, leaving it vulnerable to illness. But here's the hope. Deliberate, health-affirming choices can rejuvenate and fortify the brain. Whether it's the decision to forgive, to stay physically active, or to challenge the mind with new learning, these small steps reshape our neural pathways and build resilience.
Fasting. An easy way to do it is to have breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, then have an 18-hour fast through to the next morning. Or come to Misty Mountain Health Retreat where we make it really easy for you and you do 2 days on vegetable and fruit juices. That's a shocker. It's a shock to the body when the food stops coming. That's one shock. The next shock is finishing every hot shower with a quick cold. Notice I didn't say long cold. I'm kind. That's a shocker. You'll go, it's a shocker. But it's going to stimulate your brain to release the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, new brain cells. Number 3, high-intensity interval training, running for your life for 30 seconds up hills, then having a break and then doing it again. That's a shocker. Feel like you're dying. So people that have been attending my lectures all week, and I'm sure you've been so excited about this, you've been doing it, are you feeling really smart right now? New brain cells. Something else can grow. Every time we learn something new, we develop another dendrite. I love memorising. It's one of my favourite things to do. And every time I learn new verses, another dendrite. If you play the piano and learn new pieces, there are 3 things that science shows are the most powerful in developing new dendrites. One is learning a new language, learning a musical instrument. People think I've got a good memory. I really don't. Now, that lady who played the piano, she didn't start playing yesterday, I'm sure. And I didn't start memorising yesterday. It takes a while. How long does it take to really solidify in your brain? Probably about 21 days. I learn a verse a week. If I do any more, it gets all jumbled up and I can't remember anything. So every time you learn something new, another dendrite grows. That one brain cell can develop 70,000 dendrites. I can hardly get my mind around that one. And you know what the research shows? We can be growing new dendrites right up until the day we die. So there are 3 things we can grow. We can grow new pathways, we can grow new dendrites, and we can even grow new brain cells. God is so good. What about shrink? When you forgive anyone who's ever hurt you in your life, your glial cells are activated to mop up all the thorns, and the pathway to that memory actually shrinks. So it needn't be part of your daily thoughts. That's the good news. So what's the bad news about shrinking? If you don't use your brain cells, you will lose them. I love the story about the 90-year-old man who learned to play the piano and the 92-year-old man who graduated from law school. It's time, students. Number 7, the last law is the law of diversion. And the law of diversion states that when something is so firmly denied as to refuse any hope for it, the brain has the ability to divert to other pursuits. I love that law, because sometimes God closes a door, but what's the saying? When God closes a door, he opens a window. An Italian man said to me, no. What we say is when God closes one door, he'll open 2. Have you found that? When I hurt my arm, something happened to me the week before. I was in Warburton giving meetings like I have this week, and my right-hand man, he was the man that was with the chairs, he was doing the sound system and running around. He had one arm, and it was his left arm, and he was about 63. And every time I looked around, there he was there. What do you want me to do now? I said, how'd you lose your arm? He said, I was 7 years old. And he said, and it was an accident down on the farm and it got caught in an auger or something. He said, when I woke up in hospital the night after it had happened, or the morning after it had happened, he said, I sat up in bed and I said, nurse, get me a pen and paper. I've got to learn to write with my left hand. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. And happiness isn't things, it's not what's happening to you, it's a choice. It's a choice, and we have so much to be happy about, yeah? So much to be happy about.
Did you know that the brain is capable of generating new cells and connections even into old age? High-intensity interval training, lifelong learning, and activities like memorising scripture stimulate this process, creating an environment where the brain thrives. Conversely, depression hinders this growth. dulling mental agility and opening the door to cognitive deterioration. Yet, when we choose to engage in challenging activities, like learning a new language, we actively build new dendrites, strengthening the brain's defenses. These choices allow us not just to survive, but to thrive, even in the face of adversity. And so, as we wrap up today's discussion, let's take these lessons to heart. Depression is a silent force that can contribute to cognitive decline, but through conscious, intentional efforts in nutrition, exercise, and emotional care, we can fortify our minds and protect against dementia. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, your daily choices shape your future. Stay tuned for more life-changing health insights, and until next time, take charge of your well-being and live vibrantly.
So there ends my lecture on which has freed and revolutionised many women and men. Thank you.